welcome to the mill and welcome back to another episode of Chaotic Clarity. I am Freya and this is my co-host Dawn. And thank you so much for joining us today. So as always, we start our podcast with a little story from our lives that illustrates a little bit of chaos and a little bit of clarity. So mine is quite a fun one today, Dawn, and it is involved this prop. So a little bit of, I suppose I go the opposite way for this one. So this story actually starts with clarity. So my bags are all tidied away at the moment, which is quite a rarity for me. So all my bags are beautifully tidied and organized, and that's probably because I've had some help from my mum recently. And so everything was tidied away, and I went to get a bag to come and do the podcast today with you, and grabbed one of my bags and felt it was quite heavy. And I was like, gosh, I wonder why my bag is heavy. It really should be empty. And this mug was in it. Now, it wasn't wrapped in cling film. I have only wrapped it in cling film because it is a biological hazard. I didn't want to have to share this with Dawn. But I found this in my bag. I don't know why I put a mug in my bag. I don't know when I put a mug in my bag. And I don't know kind of how many things about the mug in the bag situation. I'm guessing the mug was out somewhere. Somebody was coming to my house and I threw it in there as a quick tidy or something. But it must have been in there quite some time because there's a whole little collection of kind of mini microbes living in there now, which is why it's all there. So mine goes from actual clarity and clearness of my beautifully organized bags to opening it and just finding chaos from the past. And I know some people might be kind of thinking, gosh, it's really embarrassing to show something, like that. And I guess it is a little bit, but also it's me being real. And I think the more that we can all be real and share these things with one another, it allows us just to, have a laugh about it, be a little bit kinder to ourselves. So I'm just going to put that down while Dawn tells you about her chaotic and clarity moment for the week.
Do you know, I feel like I'd love to swab that cup and throw it in those little Petri dishes and see what you've made there and see what was originally in that, because you haven't got a clue, have you?
I haven't, no.
Must have been milk maybe from a tea or a coffee.
I don't drink tea or coffee, so who knows, Dawn? Who knows? I'm essentially a modern day Marie Curie, inventing penicillin and who knows what kind of
keep that mug. You never know.
So Dawn, go on, tell us about your chaotic clarity moment.
So for me recently, obviously my youngest is a dancer and she does lots of dance competitions, and I really struggle watching her. So she goes to these lovely halls and community places and stages and things, and they're always on a bloody Sunday morning as well. And I just get really, really anxious when she's about to go on stage. I get anxious when she's on stage, and it's getting to the point now where I have to leave whilst she's dancing, and then I come back in and I'm going, yes, well done, because obviously I don't want her to know. So that is like one of my
real chaotic moments.
Yeah, and I'm even starting to think now, shall I just stay at home and not go and find excuses? It's really awful. But do you know what's lovely though, moment of clarity, is when I was pacing up and down whilst they were on stage, one of the other mums, I said, I can't watch, I get really anxious when I watch her. And she's the same. She said, hers is older now. She said, I used to be exactly the same. I was exactly the same. It used to be horrendous. And she said, my husband used to come and he was always really calm, watching her form and all that. And she'd be like me, pacing outside, like worrying. So that's my chaotic and clarity moment this week.
I love that. Sometimes just sharing that story can make you not feel alone.
Yeah.
And then it kind of normalizes a little bit. Yeah. And for me, I think that just shows what a great mum you are, because you're so connected to your daughter.
Yeah. You don't feel like it at the time, though. You feel awful because I can't even stay in a room while she's dancing. But yeah, I'm going to work on it. Kind and gentle working on it. Yeah, definitely.
So some of you might be wondering today why we are in our amazing fur coats.
For those that can see us, by the way, if you're on the podcast, we look amazing.
If you're just listening, Dawn and I are in fabulous fur coats today. Dawn, why are we in fabulous fur coats?
Well, Freya, when we got here this morning, we were chatting about the podcasts today and all, whatever. You said something about dopamine dressing. And I said, what? I've never heard these words before, dopamine dressing. And it's suddenly like a million miles an hour in my head. I processed what you said. And I thought, oh my God, that's a word for what I do. And I knew that there would be a word for what I do. And you've just taught me again that actually a lot of us dopamine dress. And I'm fascinated. So, yeah, tell them more.
Fantastic. And that's, I think, one of the beauties of the podcast. When you and I explore something together, we find it interesting.
Yeah.
We want to share it with you guys, and hopefully you will find it interesting. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is involved in our brains, and it is involved in things like motivation and drive. It's involved in things like reward and pleasure. It's also involved in our attention and focus. So if you think about some of those things, you think about, and particularly an ADHD brains kind of a lot of times are seeking dopamine. So they think that there isn't enough dopamine within an ADHD brain. So it often means that you're kind of seeking things that get that immediate hit a lot quicker, that kind of reward, that pleasure center. So whereas maybe a neurotypical brain might be able to work towards a long-term goal, kind of like tolerate the kind of boredom to get to like an exciting piece at the end, we know ADHD brains love the fact when there's a dopamine hit of something really exciting, and that kind of washes the brain in dopamine, and then we get all really excited, and it's kind of all of those positive things. So people recently have been talking about dopamine dressing on social media, and I thought, when we started talking about it today, we thought it'd just be a really useful thing to talk about on the podcast, especially for neurodivergent women, who sometimes how we dress also reflects a little bit of how we may be camouflaging or masking that day. So we're going to be thinking about both of those things. I think one of the things that you started to talk to me about this morning, Dawn, was your kind of like your preparation and what you're going to wear for the day. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think that was just a really lovely example of how that kind of helps.
So, and it's funny because it was really recently that me and Steve had a conversation about this, and he didn't realize, because I just thought everybody did it like you do until you say it out loud. And he looked at me like, sorry, what? So the night before, I have to organize in my brain, not physically, mentally, what I'm going to wear tomorrow. If I'm working, it's fine because I wear the same thing to work every day. It's comfort, and it's, I know where I am with it. But if I'm not working, like for example, last night I was thinking, oh, what shall I wear? Because I know we film for YouTube as well, so I can't just be sat here in my pajamas. And also we're going out later, so that was like a lot of outfits. Do I wear the same one? Do I get changed? What do we do?
And little did you know we'd end up in our fur coats.
I know. I'm so happy. And then obviously I said to you that I planned the night before, and then I wake up in the morning and it actually gets me out of bed because I know what I'm going to wear, and I get excited about wearing things. And you said dopamine dressing. I was like, what?
Exactly. So if we think about dopamine dressing, it can involve things like, wearing something because it's a particular texture. So that's going to help you feel warm. It's going to feel soft. It's going to help you feel kind of comforted. It can also be about colors as well. So again, sometimes people talk about dopamine dressing as just bright colors, but we know everybody's different, and maybe not everyone's going to get sort of that dopamine hit from a bright color. Maybe it's going to be a pastel color. Maybe actually you feel most at your confident when you're all in black. So there's definitely an element of individuality to dopamine dressing. I think as well as also a way of expressing your identity, expressing sort of maybe how you're feeling emotionally or how you're going to cope with the day. So I have a pair in my head of what I call my kind of like dopamine shoes. So they are a pair of trainers that are pink and sparkly. First of all, they are super comfortable. So I don't ever want to worry if I'm doing a presentation, if I'm going to a job interview, that I'm going to be walking in high heels, I'm going to be stumbling, and my feet are going to be uncomfortable. So comfort is like a priority for me on those kind of stress days. But also I want something that's going to make, when I look down at my feet, at my shoes, it's going to be something that alivens me, that makes me feel, oh yes, I can do this. I've got the confidence. So they are pink, they are glittery, they are sparkly. And I don't think I fail to feel joy when I wear these shoes. And I think that is just a really, a clear example of how, for example, dressing a certain way or a certain piece of clothing can really help you. So I know there's been times when, I've been standing on, the side of a stage waiting to go on to maybe talk about autism, ADHD or something in front of maybe 100, 200 people. And I might start to feel anxious, start to think, oh my God, what if I forget everything? I can look down. I've got my pink sparkly shoes on, and I know I can tackle that. So that's something that's really important for me. Have you got an item of clothing like that, Dawn, that when you put on, that's kind of how it helps you to like lock into a certain feeling or sensation or something that allows you to just feel authentically you?
I've actually got loads of different outfits. I love that when I wake up for work, I have my go-tos. I wear a uniform in the salon, and the girls wear a uniform, mainly because we are all neurodivergent as well in the salon, and we actually prefer that. Now, it's not because I want us all to look the same. It's got nothing to do with that. It's because it takes that stressful part of the day out, and they can wear whatever they want, but they choose to wear a uniform, and I love that. But I've on my days off, I actually think about it days in advance, and not again. It sounds like being weird, but not in a controlling way, but in a I get excited way. Like, oh, I'm going to wear. It's meant to be sunny on Thursday. I am going to shave my legs Wednesday night and maybe wear something consume. And then I go into that hole of I'm going to do that. And I'm only in the garden all day. It's not for anybody else.
Yeah, it's for you.
It's for me.
Yeah.
And I just love that. So I've got loads of different ones depending. And then also when I come home from being in the garden, I've got my comfies I can't wait to put on because they make me feel soft, at home, comfort, just, love it.
Definitely. And I think as well, sometimes people can underestimate the importance of an outfit, especially for neurodivergent women, especially when we're thinking about that kind of like masking or camouflaging or how we want to present to the world. And you can probably all relate to that. You've all been at some situation in our lives where you've either gone somewhere and you felt completely overdressed or completely underdressed, or just that you're kind of in the wrong thing. And I think I can remember, when I was, when you're kind of like a teenager or a young adult and you're trying to figure out what your style is, who you are, what you are, where you are. And I think this was one of the early things I started recognizing my own neurodivergent journey is I started to realize I felt more like, and this sounds strange, but bear with me as I go through the story. I kind of started to identify with Barbie in a weird way, because not that I think I'm, tall, skinny, and wonderful and all of that like Barbie, but also more like Barbie always has the right outfit for the right thing. If she's going into space, she's astronaut Barbie. If she's if she's at the vet, she's veterinary Barbie. If she's going horse riding, she's equestrian Barbie. And I think for me that was something that I realized, that my style wasn't necessarily always internally dictated by me, but it was kind of about where I was going, what I was doing, so I could feel comfortable and confident in that thing. And I know that sometimes, even if I'm in the wrong outfit, other people around me might not notice, might not even care, they wouldn't think it's wrong, but there'd be something kind of like internal to me that just feels off, and just feels wrong. So I've got again another weird example, and thank you to my long-suffering husband Rick for this, but we went to a concert once, and if we're thinking about dopamine dressing and we're thinking about how that kind of like helps you present your own identity, I was just really out of sorts as the concert was starting, because I was in the wrong outfit, and it wasn't anybody had told me it was wrong. It was just that I didn't feel comfortable in whatever I'd chosen that day. Physically, it was uncomfortable. There was probably some restriction that I was unhappy with, and the colors were wrong, and it was just all wrong. And amazingly, Rick decided that he was going to go home. We only lived about 10 minutes away from the concert venue, but still, he did that, got me the right clothes. I was able to then change in the loose. The reason I didn't go is because it was kind of like a closed concert area, and he was able to get in and out. But that made my day. And having to be with people who get that about you and don't think you're being, childish or petty or, overly concerned with your looks, because it actually wasn't about that for me. It was about something about that confidence. As soon as I put that second outfit on, oh my goodness, dopamine rush. This is how I'm ready and raring to go. I think sometimes we can really beat ourselves up over some of those things that actually are quite internal to who we are. And actually, it's just, again, I'll say it a million times, being kind to ourselves in those situations where we're allowed to do that.
So the outfit that you felt uncomfortable in, was it new? Just random question.
I think there were probably elements it was a new, and it was elements that I can remember it being tight. I can remember there being like tights, and I can remember just feeling uncomfortable, and it was a hot day. There was just many elements of it that wasn't how I was able to kind of just relax and enjoy the day.
And it takes over you, and it's not just I felt uncomfortable, it's like no, I feel uncomfortable, like not myself, and all it is an item of clothing, and the second you change it, it's lifted, isn't it? I can't wear jeans.
Okay, go on.
I have got a drawer of about 6 pairs of jeans,
Yeah.
by the way, that I've always buy,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll wear them once. I hate them. I can't wait to come home and take them off. And even in the mirror, I look at them and I think, oh yeah, like I look okay in them. So it's
Yeah.
not even what I think about what I look
Yeah.
like. It's just, I don't know. Even denim dungarees, baggy ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a texture thing, but I keep buying jeans.
Mm-hmm.
I wear them for 5 minutes. They come off. They go back in the drawer. I've got a thing about jeans, and I'm never comfortable in them. And I don't think it's a texture thing.
Yeah.
I really don't,
It's
because I
something
like tight clothing. I live in tight clothing. It's just weird. So if I wear jeans, I have to come home. I would be you in that concert.
jeans are
Steve,
just, yeah.
swap clothes with me or something, because I'll have to walk around in his boxer shorts or something, because I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I completely understand.
And it does feel overwhelming, doesn't it? You know, and I
Yeah.
think sometimes it could be that a sensory thing.
Yeah.
So it could be a sensory thing. It could be a kind of feeling thing. It could be actually this outfit just isn't releasing any dopamine for me, or whatever it is. And then it can feel really overwhelming.
Yeah.
One of the things I like that you asked there was about, is it new? So I just wanted to
Yeah.
explore, Dawn, with you. Do you get like a dopamine kind of excitement when you buy new stuff? Or is that quite an sort of like an anxiety provoking thing for you because it's new and it's different and it's change? What's that kind of like for you, and how do you navigate that?
So I love new clothes, really, but sometimes if I go off piste with what I normally wear and think, oh, I'm going to try this.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if I went out in a skirt with tights, like you just said about tights, I don't think I've ever worn a skirt and tights in my life. Maybe in school.
Yeah.
And I probably hated it and then wore trousers for the rest of the time. If I walked out in skirts and tights, no. That would make me really anxious, because it's not even what it looks like or what it feels like. It just doesn't feel me.
So there's something about it kind of almost like jars with your own sense of identity.
I think I'm quite a masculine dresser. I know I'm sat here in a fur coat, right, with leopard print underneath, but I find my dress style, the things that I like, are always quite masculine and earthy, is what I would say.
Yeah.
Anything that's what I'd say girly or glittery, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Like I'm trying to be someone I'm not.
Yeah.
Is probably.
So there's something about you being able to feel your authentic self.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if that new thing is something that I love and that I always buy, but I've just got a different colour, I've no issue with new clothes. But if it's a new and I'm just trying, oh, do you know what? She looked good in that. No. If it's too, I say girly, but I don't think I'm that masculine. But if it's a skirt and tights, for example, or a dress, very uncomfortable.
If it's not for you.
Yeah.
I can remember similarly. So when I've had sort of like moved from a job where I was more as a clinician focused and moved more to kind of like management roles, and I was thinking about how I wanted to dress more maybe professional, so to speak. And I can remember going to a shop and kind of like trying on a suit with, tailored jacket, tailored trousers, and kind of coming out, and the shop assistant saying, oh gosh, you look really smart, and I was like, I do not look like me. Who is this? And just felt so uncomfortable. And actually there's a really fascinating piece of research by that they looked at psychologists and people about who what they wear in order to make their clients feel most comfortable. So if you're having a therapy session with a psychotherapist or a psychologist, is it better for them to wear a suit? Is it better for them to wear relaxed clothes? What is it? And the finding from the research was that whatever the psychologist was wearing that was most like their own authentic self was what the client felt most comfortable with. So obviously if I don't know, a male psychologist really liked wearing a suit and he felt most comfortable in a suit, the person having the therapy would be like, he felt like himself. If he wore scruffy clothes, they might be like, oh no, that wasn't quite right. Whereas, because that was his authentic self. Whereas if they saw me, for example, in a suit, they might be like, oh, that just felt a little bit stilted and a little bit too smart because I wasn't my authentic self. So I really love the fact that research, even when people don't, recognize, even don't know what the authentic thing is, when we're dressed as our authentic self, we are going to be more, I suppose, approachable to others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a bit like hair. What we wear is a reflection of our soul, is what I believe. So when it doesn't feel right on us, for whatever reason, it's none of anybody else's business, but if it doesn't feel right for us, we don't feel right, and we
No.
don't function properly to our highest. I don't think. That's my personal opinion.
I think it makes us think about too many other things.
Yeah.
We're so worried about the other things that just aren't quite right. It's
Yeah.
almost like it's just out of kilter.
Yeah.
Obviously you're the expert in hair, Dawn, so I was just thinking about how do you think about that concept of dopamine dressing from a hairdresser's and hair perspective?
I find it quite similar. So I would say what people wear and how their hair is, I'd probably put in one category.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're both very similar, only because I see people in my chair that their hair can sometimes affect their mental health.
Yeah.
If it's not right, or if people, with hair loss especially, that is horrendous. That can really affect somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, like I make wigs. I do a lot of wigs as well on people with hair loss, and the change in them. Oh my God! And like I have their families messaging me saying, my mum's back to herself, or
Yeah.
and it's not all chemo related, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of it can be stress or alopecia.
Yeah.
So there's not like an illness that they're also struggling with.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people can feel guilt because they're not going through chemo or something. But yeah, it's just life changing. Confidence comes back, and so many people will have a haircut that they love. They go out and buy a new wardrobe. They go out and buy clothes that they are confident to wear, that they've always wanted to, but they've just worn baggy, comfy things because they just feel like in a shell, if you know what I mean. And then, which sounds extremely like, but it sounds a bit dramatic, but that's what I see in my chair.
Yeah. And I think again we can I think we've talked about some of these ideas on other podcasts. We talk about like our primary emotion of this is actually how it's making us feel, and then as humans we tend to layer like a secondary emotion over it. So actually if a new haircut or a pair of sparkly pink shoes or whatever makes us feel really good, we don't need to add on the secondary emotion of this is childish or silly or shameful. We just need to embrace that primary emotion, and sometimes that can be quite tricky, but how amazing that, as I said, the lives that you can change by doing the haircuts, by doing the wigs. What an amazing impact to have and be able to reflect on.
Well, we've all had a bad haircut, haven't we? We've all experienced maybe colouring our hair ourselves at home, especially in lockdown. And we know how when things go wrong, people just lived in a hat for 2 years at one point, didn't they? So we know the impact that can have, and I do believe that clothing is exactly the same. And I was always brought up with, it's just school, it's not a fashion show, just go with. And I used to think to myself, but it is. Like it's not that it's a fashion show, but it's me. It's how it makes me feel. If I put my ring there, or if I'm wearing my nose ring, like that makes me feel like me. So it is a fashion show, actually.
life
is a fashion show.
Life, which is why we're sitting here in our fur coat.
Exactly.
But and I think for me, I would say, when you're thinking about dopamine, and we always like to talk about takeaways from the podcast. I would say, embrace dopamine dressing.
Always.
Give it a go. Find the things that you love, that make you happy, that that light your fire, that give you that confidence. Plan it the night before, like Dawn does.
When we see 4-year-old little girls walking through Tesco's dressed as Snow White, they are so happy.
I know.
And then we just lose it as adults, don't we?
We
should wear more ball gowns to Tesco's.
Maybe the next episode of Chaotic Clarity, we'll be sitting here in a fabulous ball gown.
It's not for me, but
Dawn will be in a tux and I'll be in a ball gown, and we'll manage it together. But then we'll probably find it's maybe itchy or scratchy, and we'll need to change into our soft fleecy gym jams throughout. But I think it's really important to kind of get all of that balance. Thinking about clothing as something that can bring us confidence, that can bring us peace, but also is that additional layer of masking as well that can help us feel protected from the world sometimes. So hopefully it's been a useful but a little bit of a strange conversation today, but hopefully it means that you can go forward, try a little bit of dopamine dressing or hairdos. Dawn, any takeaways that you're going to take from today?
I just think that everybody should wear what they want to wear. Give it a go. If you really want your hair cutting, do what you want. If it makes you feel better, I just think you should do it, and just be brave. And do you know what? If you don't like that dress or whatever, you can just never wear it again, can you? But
there you go.
Just be comfortable, feel comfortable, embrace who you are. That's That's all I'm going to say about it. Really.
Brilliant. What an absolutely fabulous end. Thank you.
Oh, Freya, thank you. Another amazing conversation. Thank you so much for listening to us. Join us next time from the mill. Go and get your fur coats on.
Bye.
Bye.